January 1942, Berlin, Germany. Adolf Hitler sat at his desk reviewing reports of Germany's declaration of war against the United States. His generals expressed concerns. America's industrial capacity was enormous, its population vast, its resources unlimited. Hitler dismissed their worries with contempt. "What is America but millionaires, beauty queens, stupid records, and Hollywood?" he told his inner circle. "Americans are not a warrior people. They are businessmen and cowboys who will quit the moment war becomes difficult. Their army is small, their soldiers untrained, their equipment inferior." He continued, "They cannot fight, they cannot organize, they have no discipline. In a year, perhaps two, we will have conquered Russia. Then we will deal with the American problem, if it is still a problem." This assessment, shared by many in the German High Command, would prove to be one of the most catastrophic intelligence failures in military history. At that same moment, across the Atlantic in Richmond, California, industrialist Henry Kaiser was revolutionizing shipbuilding at a scale that would have seemed impossible to Hitler's generals. Richmond Shipyard No. 2 had just launched the SS Robert E. Peary, a Liberty ship built from keel laying to launch in 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes. 4 days. To build a 14,000-ton cargo ship capable of carrying 9,000 tons of supplies, 2,840 jeeps, or 440 tanks across the Atlantic. By the time Hitler finished dismissing American industrial capacity, Richmond's shipyards were already on pace to build more tonnage in a single year than Germany had built in the previous decade. This is the story of how that catastrophic German underestimation led to strategic disaster, how American industry transformed from peacetime production to the arsenal of democracy, how factories that made cars began producing bombers at rates that shocked even American planners, and how the German military, arguably the finest fighting force in Europe, was ultimately buried under an avalanche of American-made equipment that they never believed possible. From Liberty ships built in days to B-24 bombers rolling off assembly lines every 63 minutes, from tank production that eclipsed all Axis powers, combined to a military logistics system that made German officers weep with envy. This is the story of how industrial might won World War II before many battles were even fought. January 1942, what the Germans believed. To understand the magnitude of Germany's miscalculation, you need to understand what German planners believed about America in early 1942. The Nazi assessment of America. Military capacity. Army was tiny, fewer than 200,000 soldiers. Equipment was obsolete, left over from World War I in many cases. No combat experience since 1918. Officer corps was small and inexperienced. Industrial capacity focused on consumer goods, not military hardware. Factories designed for automobiles, not tanks. No tradition of large-scale military production. Would take years to convert to wartime production. National character. Americans were soft, pleasure-seeking, and undisciplined. Democratic culture would prevent the national mobilization needed for total war. Racial mixing and individualism meant Americans lacked German cohesion, would lack will to sustain casualties. Geographic advantage. America was 3,000 miles from Europe across the Atlantic. U-boats would sink any supplies that attempted crossing. By the time American forces could reach Europe in strength, Germany would control all of Europe and Russia. Hitler's specific statements, documented. "I don't see much future for the Americans. It's a decayed country, and they have their racial problem and the problem of social inequalities. American society is half Judaized and the other half negrified. How can one expect a state like that to hold together?" The American soldiers are not trained for war. They are businessmen in uniform. When we are finished with Russia, if America is still a problem, we will teach them what war means. The German military assessment was more nuanced but still wrong. German military intelligence recognized American industrial capacity was theoretically large. American resources, oil, steel, coal, were abundant. American population of 130+ million dwarfed Germany's 70 million. But they concluded, converting peaceful economy to war production would take 3 to 4 years minimum. By then, Germany would control Europe and Russia. U-boats would prevent American supplies reaching Europe. American soldiers would prove inferior to German veterans. Every single assumption was wrong. The reality, American industrial mobilization. While Hitler dismissed American capacity, American industry was achieving the impossible. The Liberty Ship Program. The problem, Britain was losing merchant ships to U-boats faster than they could be replaced. Without merchant ships, supplies couldn't cross the Atlantic. Without supplies, Britain would starve and couldn't continue the war. The solution, mass-produce standardized cargo ships at unprecedented rates. The Liberty Ship design. Simple, standardized design based on British ships, 14,000 tons deadweight, 441 feet long. Single screw, propeller, triple expansion steam engine, reliable but not fast. Max speed, 11 knots, slow but good enough. The revolutionary production method. Henry Kaiser, who'd never built a ship before the war, revolutionized shipbuilding. Prefabrication. Ships were built in sections in factories, then assembled at the shipyard. Welding instead of riveting, faster assembly, required less skilled labor. Assembly line techniques, applied automobile mass production methods to shipbuilding. 24-hour operations, 3 shifts, 7 days per week. Modular design, standardized components that could be produced anywhere. The results. Average construction time, 1941, 230 days per ship, 1942, 60 days per ship, 1943, 42 days per ship. Record, SS Robert E. Peary, 4 days, 15 hours, 29 minutes. Total production minus 2,710 Liberty ships built. More tonnage than all Axis nations combined during the entire war. Replaced losses faster than U-boats could sink them. The German reaction. Admiral Karl Dönitz, commander of the U-boat fleet, realized by mid-1943 that Germany was losing the tonnage war. The Americans are building ships faster than we can sink them. Each month they launch more tonnage than our entire U-boat fleet sinks. This is not sustainable. We cannot win this war. German naval intelligence had calculated that if U-boats sank 700,000 tons per month, Britain would be starved into submission within a year. At peak effectiveness, 1942, U-boats sank approximately 600,000 tons per month. But American shipyards were producing over 1 million tons per month by late 1942, increasing to over 2 million tons per month by 1943. The math was simple and brutal. America was building ships faster than Germany could sink them. The Willow Run miracle, bombers from an assembly line. While ships were being mass-produced on the coasts, Ford Motor Company was achieving something even more remarkable inland. The B-24 Liberator bomber. Specifications: 4-engine heavy bomber, 65-foot wingspan minus 30,000 plus pounds, empty weight minus 10-man crew minus 18,000 plus individual parts. Previously built by skilled aircraft workers in small batches. The challenge: the Army Air Force needed thousands of heavy bombers. Consolidated Aircraft, the B-24's designer, was producing them slowly using traditional aircraft manufacturing methods. Ford's solution: build bombers the way Ford built cars, on an assembly line. Willow Run plant. Built in 1941 in Michigan, largest building in the world by area, 3.5 million square feet, L-shaped, over a mile long. Employed 42,000 workers at peak. Operated 24 hours, 7 days per week. The production system: Ford broke bomber assembly into stations. Components built in feeder lines. Main assembly line moved aircraft through stations. Each station performed specific tasks. Workers trained for specific operations. Quality control at each stage. The results: production ramp-up. 1942, first bomber completed. August 1943, ramped up to 1 bomber every hour. Peak production: 1 B-24 Liberator every 63 minutes. Total production: 8,685 B-24s from Willow Run alone. At peak, Willow Run was producing 1 bomber per hour, completing more bombers per day than Germany produced in a month, employing workers who'd never built aircraft before, achieving quality equal to traditional aircraft manufacturers. The German disbelief. When German intelligence reported Willow Run's production rates, many German officers refused to believe the numbers. Americans cannot be building 1 4-engine bomber per hour. This is impossible. Aircraft are not automobiles. This must be propaganda. Albert Speer, Germany's armaments minister, later wrote, "We had no equivalent to Willow Run. When I learned after the war that Ford had mass-produced 4-engine bombers on an assembly line, I understood why we lost. We treated aircraft as individual craft. Americans treated them as industrial products." The numbers, production statistics that won the war. The true scale of American industrial mobilization is captured in production statistics. Aircraft production, 1941 to 1945. United States, 300,317 aircraft, including 96,318 fighters, 97,810 bombers, thousands of transports and trainers. Germany, 119,307 aircraft. Entire war, 1939 to 1945. Japan, 76,320 aircraft. Entire war, 1941 to 1945. The ratio: America alone produced more aircraft than Germany and Japan combined. Tank production: United States, 88,410 tanks, including 49,234 M4 Sherman medium tanks. Germany, approximately 27,000 tanks. Entire war, 1939 to 1945, including 6,000 Panthers, 1,347 Tigers, approximately 9,000 Panzer IVs. Soviet Union, approximately 100,000 tanks. Combined Allied production, approximately 227,000 tanks versus 52,000 Axis tanks. Trucks and vehicles: United States, 2,382,311 trucks and vehicles. Germany, approximately 350,000 military trucks, heavily dependent on horses for transport. The significance: American trucks provided mobility that German forces never achieved. The U.S. Army was fully motorized. The Wehrmacht relied heavily on horses even in 1945. Ships: United States, merchant ships, 5,425 merchant ships, approximately 50 million tons. United States, warships, 10 battleships, 27 aircraft carriers, fleet carriers, over 100 escort carriers, hundreds of destroyers, destroyer escorts, submarines. Germany, minimal merchant ship production, couldn't replace losses. Artillery and weapons: United States, 257,000 artillery pieces, 2.6 million machine guns, 20 million rifles and carbines. The support equipment. Beyond weapons, America produced millions of uniforms, millions of tons of ammunition, millions of rations, medical supplies, construction equipment, communications equipment, and crucially, America supplied allies. Lend-lease to Soviet Union, 400,000 plus trucks, 12,000 plus tanks, 11,000 plus aircraft, food, fuel, industrial equipment. Lend-lease to Britain, thousands of aircraft, tanks, vehicles, millions of tons of supplies, food, ammunition, equipment. The total Allied production advantage, combining US, British, and Soviet production. Allies produced approximately 4 to 5 times more military equipment than Axis powers. America alone produced nearly 2/3 of all Allied military equipment. By 1944, Allies were producing more war material per month than Axis produced an entire previous year. The conversion from cars to tanks in months. How did America convert from peacetime to wartime production so quickly? The automobile industry foundation. America's automobile industry provided the foundation. Pre-war production, 1941, 4.8 million automobiles produced. Factories designed for mass production. Workforce trained in assembly line methods. Supply chains for components. Management experienced in large-scale production. The conversion. Speed of conversion shocked even American planners. General Motors stopped automobile production, February 1942, converted to tank, aircraft engine, and truck production. By mid-1942, producing military equipment at scale. Ford stopped automobile production early 1942, built Willow Run, completed in record time. Producing B-24s by August 1942. Chrysler built tank arsenal from scratch. Tank production began months after ground was broken. Eventually produced 25,000 plus tanks. The techniques, mass production methods applied to military equipment. Standardization, components standardized across manufacturers. Interchangeable parts, any component fit any vehicle of same type. This shocked Germans when they captured American equipment. Assembly line production, complex equipment built on moving assembly lines. Quality control, statistical quality control methods ensured consistency. Training programs, workers trained quickly for specific tasks. The workforce transformation, new workers. The mobilization brought new workers to factories. Women, Rosie the Riveter, wasn't just propaganda. Millions of women entered industrial workforce. African Americans, war industries provided employment opportunities previously denied. Rural migrants, workers moved from farms to industrial cities. Total workforce, industrial workforce expanded from 11 million 1940 to 18 million 1943. The productivity. American worker productivity increased dramatically. Better organization, improved techniques, experience gained during production, motivation, defeating fascism. By 1944, American workers were producing more military equipment per worker than any nation in history. The U-boat war, when production defeated strategy. The Battle of the Atlantic perfectly illustrated how production defeated German strategy. German U-boat strategy. Admiral Dönitz's plan was mathematically sound. The calculation: Britain imported 60+ million tons annually. Sink enough merchant ships, Britain starves the target, 700,000 tons per month. Required: 300+ U-boats operating continuously. The reality, 1942 to 1943. 1942. U-boats achieved closest to target, sank approximately 6 million tons, roughly 500,000 to 600,000 per month. Happy time for U-boats. Britain's situation was critical, but American production changed the math. Liberty ships, 1942. Over 700 ships built, approximately 7+ million tons. 1943. Over 1,900 ships built, approximately 19+ million tons. 1944. Production continued at high rates. The result, by 1943, America was building ships faster than U-boats could sink them. The U-boat defeat. May 1943. Black May for U-boats. 43 U-boats lost in 1 month. Dönitz temporarily withdrew U-boats from North Atlantic. Reasons for defeat. Allied countermeasures. Radar. U-boats couldn't surface safely. Long-range aircraft. Closed air gap in mid-Atlantic. Escort carriers provided air cover to convoys. Destroyer escorts, mass-produced anti-submarine ships. Code breaking, ultra-intelligence. But underlying all countermeasures was production. Escort carriers mass-produced by Kaiser shipyards. Destroyer escorts, over 500 built during war. Anti-submarine aircraft, thousands produced. Depth charges, sonar equipment, radar, mass-produced. The German perspective. Admiral Dönitz, post-war testimony. We could not compete with American production. For every U-boat we built, America built dozens of escort vessels. For every merchant ship we sank, America built 3 more. The mathematics became impossible. Even if every U-boat sank 3 ships before being destroyed, America would still win the tonnage war. I realized by mid-1943 that we had lost the Battle of the Atlantic not to Allied tactics, though those improved, but to American industry. We simply could not sink ships faster than America could build them. The ground war, Kasserine to victory. American industrial might didn't immediately translate to tactical competence, but it enabled learning. Kasserine Pass, February 1943. American forces in their first major engagement against Germans in North Africa were badly defeated. German assessment after Kasserine. Americans had good equipment but poor tactics. American soldiers were brave but inexperienced. American officers were inadequate. Would take years for Americans to become effective. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's observations. After fighting Americans in Tunisia. The Americans are learning very fast. Their equipment is excellent, far better than ours in many ways. Their artillery is devastating. Their air support is overwhelming. Most concerning, they can afford to lose. When we destroy 10 of their tanks, 20 more appear. When we shoot down their aircraft, more arrive the next day. They learn from defeats quickly. The Americans at Kasserine were different from the Americans we faced 2 months later. By Sicily, they were formidable. I fear not the American soldier as he fights today, but the American soldier he will become in 6 months. The transformation, 1943 to 1945. Tactical improvement, leadership, poor commanders replaced, good commanders promoted. Training, lessons from North Africa incorporated into training. Tactics, combined arms coordination improved rapidly. Experience, units that survived gained valuable experience, but the enabling factor was industrial support. Equipment replacement, tanks destroyed in combat replaced within weeks. Aircraft losses replaced within days. Ammunition always available. Germans often rationed. Spare parts abundant. German logistics deteriorated. The contrast. American unit after taking casualties, withdrawn for refit. Casualties replaced with trained replacements. Equipment replaced completely. Unit returned to combat at full strength within weeks. German unit, after taking casualties, remained in line, no reserves available, casualties often not replaced. Germany ran out of trained men. Equipment not replaced, production couldn't keep up with losses. Unit deteriorated in combat power continuously. By 1944 to 1945, American units were generally at or near full strength. German units were often at 50% strength or less, with no replacements available. The air war, quantity becomes quality. American aircraft production created advantages beyond numbers. The strategic bombing campaign. German expectation, air defenses would inflict unsustainable losses on Allied bombers. Reality, American production replaced losses faster than Germany could inflict them. Example, August 17, 1943, Second Schweinfurt raid, 60. P-17S lost out of 376 attacking, 16% loss rate, clearly unsustainable. German reaction, believed this proved strategic bombing would fail. American response, 60 lost bombers replaced within weeks. Training pipeline produced replacement crews. Tactics improved. Long-range escort fighters, P-51 Mustangs introduced. By 1944, bomber losses declined, better escorts and tactics. German fighters declined, pilot losses, fuel shortages. American bomber production continued at massive rates. The numbers war. 1944 example. American aircraft production, over 90,000 aircraft that year alone. German aircraft production, approximately 40,000 aircraft. But German effectiveness declining, fuel shortages, limited training, new pilots were inadequately trained. Experienced pilots killed faster than replaced. Aircraft destroyed on ground by Allied air attacks. Spare parts unavailable. By 1945, Germany was producing aircraft that couldn't fly due to fuel shortages, piloted by inadequately trained pilots who were shot down by veteran Allied pilots flying superior aircraft. The logistics miracle, the Red Ball Express and beyond. American logistics capabilities stunned German officers. The Red Ball Express, August to November 1944. After the Normandy breakout, American forces advanced faster than planned. The problem? Supply lines stretched from Normandy beaches to advancing forces hundreds of miles inland. The solution? Massive truck convoy system. 6,000 plus trucks, operating 24 hours per day, transported 12,500 plus tons per day. Drivers, many African American, covered round-trip distances of 700 plus miles. German observer accounts captured officers. We could not understand American logistics. Their forces advanced so fast that supply lines should have collapsed. Instead, truck convoys, thousands of trucks, brought supplies forward continuously. Our advances in 1940 and 1941 were limited by logistics. American advances seemed unlimited. How do they supply so many troops so far forward? The answer: American industry produced trucks in such numbers that supply became a solved problem. American truck production, over 2.3 million military trucks. German truck production, approximately 350,000 military trucks, also relied heavily on horses. The German army used over 1 million horses for transport throughout the war. The U.S. Army was fully motorized. The German realization when it was too late. By 1944, German leaders realized their error, but too late to matter. Albert Speer, Armaments Minister. Post-war testimony and memoirs. I visited frontline units in 1944 and saw the evidence everywhere. American equipment was superior in quantity and, increasingly, in quality. Every German soldier knew when Americans attacked, artillery would fire for hours. When Germans attacked, artillery would fire for minutes before running out of shells. American soldiers had unlimited ammunition. German soldiers rationed every bullet. American tanks destroyed could be replaced. German tanks destroyed were irreplaceable. I reported to Hitler that American production was 2 to 3 times our estimates. He refused to believe it. When I showed him captured American equipment and explained how it revealed mass production techniques we couldn't match, he blamed sabotage and poor German workers. He never accepted that American democracy and capitalism had outproduced German totalitarian efficiency. But the soldiers at the front knew they were being buried under American equipment. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt. Post-war interrogation. The Americans were not better soldiers than Germans, not initially, but they had unlimited supplies, unlimited ammunition, unlimited replacements. When we destroyed one American tank, 3 more appeared. When we shot down American aircraft, more came the next day. When we killed American soldiers, replacements arrived within weeks. We could win every battle and still lose the war, because America simply produced more of everything than we could destroy. This was not superior tactics. This was industrial annihilation. The final accounting why Germany lost. The industrial comparison total war production all categories. Allied production 1939 to 1945 to United States approximately $186 billion in war material, $1940. Soviet Union approximately $48 billion. Britain approximately $47 billion. Total Allied approximately $281 billion. Axis production 1939 to 1945 Germany approximately $60 billion in war material. Japan, approximately $20 billion. Italy, approximately $8 billion. Total Axis, approximately $88 billion. The ratio, Allies produced approximately 3.2 times more war material than Axis powers. The American contribution, United States alone produced approximately 66% of all Allied war material. The strategic result. By 1944, Germans were rationing ammunition. German tanks were immobilized by fuel shortages. German aircraft couldn't fly due to fuel shortages. German soldiers lacked adequate food. German logistics collapsed. Meanwhile, Allied forces had unlimited ammunition. Allied tanks rarely faced fuel shortages. Allied aircraft dominated the skies. Allied soldiers were well fed. Allied logistics were so efficient, they seemed miraculous to German observers. The war was decided in factories as much as on battlefields. Conclusion: the catastrophic miscalculation. January 1942. Adolf Hitler dismissed America as incapable of sustained warfare. December 1945. Germany was occupied, its cities ruined, its military destroyed, buried under an avalanche of American production that Hitler never believed possible. What Hitler got wrong? American character. Americans weren't soft. When awakened, they mobilized more completely than any democracy in history. American industry? Converting from consumer goods to military production didn't take years. It took months. American workers, millionaires and beauty queens, included millions of skilled workers who produced more military equipment than the rest of the world combined. American logistics, the businessmen Hitler dismissed, brought business efficiency to warfare, mass production, interchangeable parts, statistical quality control, assembly line techniques. The fundamental error? Hitler confused American preference for peace with inability to wage war. He mistook democratic culture for weakness. He assumed America's commercial orientation meant it couldn't organize for military production. He was wrong about everything. The numbers told the story Hitler refused to believe. Liberty ships 2,710 built, more tonnage than all Axis nations combined. B-24 bombers, one every 63 minutes at peak production. Total aircraft, 300,000 plus 2.5 times Germany and Japan combined. Tanks, 88,000 plus, more than 3 times Germany's production. Trucks, 2.3 plus million, nearly 7 times Germany's production. And America supplied its allies while outproducing its enemies. The lesson? Wars aren't decided solely by courage or tactics or initial military strength. They're decided by the ability to sustain operations over years, to replace losses, to supply forces, to produce equipment faster than enemies can destroy it. Germany had excellent soldiers, good tactics, and initially superior equipment. But Germany couldn't sustain the production war against America's industrial might. Albert Speer's final assessment. We lost the war in 1942 not on battlefields but in economic competition. From the moment America's factories converted to military production at full scale, we could not win. We could only prolong the inevitable. Hitler's greatest strategic error was not invading Russia. It was dismissing American industrial capacity. Russia could be defeated militarily. American production could not. The catastrophic underestimation. Hitler believed America was soft, divided, and incapable. He was certain American factories couldn't produce military equipment at scale. He was convinced American soldiers lacked warrior spirit. Every assumption was wrong. And by the time German leaders realized their error, when soldiers at the front saw unlimited American equipment, when intelligence reports documented impossible production numbers, when every German attack failed against material superiority, it was far too late. The nation Hitler dismissed as millionaires, beauty queens, and Hollywood had unleashed an industrial tsunami that buried the Wehrmacht in steel. 4 days to build a Liberty ship, 1 bomber every 63 minutes, tanks by the tens of thousands, trucks by the millions. The arsenal of democracy had awakened, and it was unstoppable.